Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into something super fundamental if you're interested in tech, cloud computing, or even just understanding how your computer really works. We're going to break down how Linux works. Now, this might look a little complex at first glance, but trust me, we'll go through it step by step in plain English. Think of Linux as the engine under the hood of many of the systems that power the internet, your Android phone, and tons of cool gadgets. It all starts with power on. Pretty straightforward, right? You hit that power button on your computer. Next up, we have the BIOS, which stands for Basic Input-Output System. Think of it as the computer's initial wake-up call. It runs some basic tests to make sure everything is working and then looks for something to boot the operating system, in our case, Linux. Now, the BIOS usually finds something called the Master Boot Record, or MBR, on your hard disk. This is a tiny piece of code that knows where to find the real operating system loader. So, the MBR kicks off the bootloader, which is a program specifically designed to load the Linux kernel. Think of the kernel as the very heart and core of the Linux operating system. It's the main brain that manages everything. The bootloader loads the kernel into the computer's memory, specifically the initial RAM disk. This is a temporary file system that contains essential tools and drivers the kernel needs to get started. Now, notice here we have non-privileged mode and then highest privilege. When the system first boots, it's in a less powerful, protected mode. The kernel, however, operates at the highest privilege level, giving it full control over the hardware. Once the kernel is up and running, it starts what's called user space. This is where you, the user, interact with the system. This includes things like the shell, that command line interface you might have seen, and the GUI, or graphical user interface, the windows and icons you're probably more familiar with. When you run an application or do something in the user space that requires access to the hardware or core system functions, it makes a user mode call. This call then triggers a system mode call, which is a request to the kernel to do something on your behalf. To make these requests to the kernel in a standardized way, applications use system API calls. Think of these as specific instructions that user programs can use to communicate with the kernel. Now, the kernel is the central point here. It takes those system calls and manages all the essential parts of your computer. Let's look at some of these key areas. File system management. This is how Linux organizes and keeps track of all your files and folders on the hard disk. System calls, we already touched on this, but the kernel handles all those requests from user applications. Device drivers. These are like translators that allow the kernel to communicate with all the different hardware components connected to your computer, like your keyboard, mouse, and graphics card. Memory management. The kernel is responsible for allocating and managing the computer's RAM, ensuring that different programs don't interfere with each other. Process management. This involves managing all the running programs, or processes, on your system, making sure they get the resources they need and run smoothly. Underneath the kernel, we have the actual CPU, the brain of your computer, memory, RAM, the hard disk, where your data is stored, and the network, allowing communication with other computers. The kernel acts as the intermediary between the software you use and this hardware. And finally, you see this little table of system call here. This is essentially a structured list of all the different system calls that user programs can make to the kernel. It's like a well-organized menu of services the kernel provides. So, to recap, when you power on your Linux machine, the BIOS starts things off, the bootloader loads the kernel into memory, and then the kernel takes over, managing all the hardware and software interactions, allowing you to run applications and get things done in the user space. And there you have it. A basic overview of how Linux works. It's a powerful and efficient system, and understanding these core concepts can really help you appreciate how your computer operates. If you found this explanation helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if there are other tech topics you'd like me to break down. Don't forget to subscribe for more easy-to-understand tech content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.